The autumn rain came softly, but it carried the weight of ghosts. Amara Cole stood beneath a black umbrella outside the Han River Memorial, staring at the name engraved on the polished stone. Li Chen. Her late husband. The man everyone believed she loved. Her fingers brushed the cold letters, but no tears came, just the dull ache of memories she could never share. The world saw a grieving widow. What they didn't see was the secret that had kept her awake every night for 3 years, a secret that had a heartbeat, a smile, and the same deep-set eyes as the man she'd betrayed. "Mommy?" The small voice pulled her from the storm of her thoughts. Amara turned to see her little boy, Aiden, his small hands gripping a blue paper crane that was now damp from the rain. His eyes, dark, sharp, hauntingly familiar, looked up at her with innocent confusion. "Are you sad again?" he asked softly. Amara knelt and smiled faintly, brushing wet hair from his forehead.
"No, baby.
Just thinking." She took his hand, and together they turned to leave. But as she stepped onto the wet pavement, her chest tightened. Because across the street, half hidden by the mist, stood a man she hadn't seen in 3 years. Li Chen. Her late husband's brother. He stood like a phantom cut from stone. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark coat fluttering in the wind. His gaze was unreadable, but it locked on her with quiet intensity that made her knees weak. He shouldn't have been here. He shouldn't have found her. Amara's breath caught. Her instinct screamed to turn around, to disappear again before he noticed, but it was too late. Their eyes met, and in that instant, something inside her shattered. Li Chen crossed the street, every step deliberate, controlled, his expression unreadable until he stood before her. Up close, the years had only sharpened him, his jaw more defined, his eyes colder, and yet behind that icy calm, there was something else. Something burning. "Amara," he said finally, his voice low, smooth, and steady. "You look unchanged." Her heart skipped. Li Chen. His gaze dropped to the little boy at her side. Aiden stared back, curious, unaware of the storm between them. Then Li Chen's expression changed, just slightly, but enough. The air grew heavy. "What's his name?" Li Chen asked quietly. "Aiden," she said quickly. "Aiden Cole." His eyes narrowed. "Cole." He tilted his head. "Not Li." Amara's throat tightened. She tried to smile, but her voice betrayed her. He takes my name. It's simpler that way." Li Chen's gaze flicked between her and the boy again. The resemblance was undeniable now. The same angular jaw, the same dark eyes, the same way he frowned when he thought. The silence stretched until it hurt. Finally, Li Chen spoke. "You didn't tell me you had a son." "I didn't think I needed to," Amara said softly. "You were gone." He studied her face, as if reading a language only he understood. "Gone," he repeated, "but not dead. Unlike my brother." The words hit her like a slap. Aiden tugged at her sleeve. "Mommy, who is he?" Amara forced a trembling smile. "Just someone from before, baby." Li Chen's eyes darkened. "From before," he echoed, as though the words carried more meaning than she'd intended. Before she could respond, thunder rolled across the sky, and rain began to fall harder, drowning the silence between them. Amara turned away, clutching Aiden's hand. "We should go." But as she tried to step past him, Li Chen caught her wrist, firm but not cruel. "I'll be in Seoul for a while," he said softly, his voice low enough for only her to hear. "And I'm going to find out the truth, Amara. Whatever you're hiding, I will know." Her pulse raced, her heart screaming in her chest. When she finally met his eyes again, she saw it there, the spark of recognition, the flicker of suspicion. Because in Aiden's face, Li Chen had seen something he shouldn't have. A reflection of himself. Rain had always reminded Amara of endings. The way it blurred the skyline, the way it washed everything clean, almost as if heaven itself was trying to rewrite what couldn't be undone. But tonight, as she stood at the glass door of her small flower shop in Itaewon, rain didn't bring peace. It brought him. Li Chen stood under a black umbrella, perfectly still, his presence sharp against the storm. 3 years hadn't softened him. If anything, the loss had carved something colder into his features, discipline hardened into armor, and grief polished into control. He stepped inside, and the tiny bell above the door trembled. "Long time," he said quietly, voice low and steady. "You disappeared without a word." Amara turned, her hands tightening around the stem of a lily. "I needed to," she murmured. There was nothing left to stay for. His gaze swept over the modest shop, the fading petals, the dripping plants, the single-framed photo of her son on the counter. His jaw tightened. Nothing. His eyes darkened. Then, who's the boy in the picture? The question hit like thunder. Amara's breath caught, her pulse tripping over itself. "My son," she said softly, too softly. Li Chen set the umbrella aside and took a single step forward. The air seemed to thicken between them. "I know," he said. "I also know he's 3. And my brother has been dead for 3 years." The room fell into silence, broken only by the patter of rain. Amara looked away, pretending to arrange the flowers, though her hands trembled. "You shouldn't have come here," she whispered. "I didn't come for answers," he replied. "I came because I needed to see you. Because," he stopped himself, running a hand through his wet hair. "Because I can't stop remembering that night." She froze. The memory neither of them spoke of hung between them, hot skin, broken vows, the night before his brother's fatal crash. Li Chen's eyes softened, the frost cracking just slightly. "Tell me the truth, Amara. Is he?" Before he could finish, the small bell rang again. A child's voice broke through the storm. "Mama." Both turned at once. The little boy ran in, dripping wet, clutching a half-broken umbrella. His bright brown eyes looked straight at Li Chen, and in that instant, everything froze. The resemblance was undeniable. The same sharp gaze. The same stubborn chin. Li Chen's throat worked soundlessly. "God," he whispered. "He looks." Amara pulled the boy close, shielding him. "Don't." But Li Chen stepped closer anyway, voice rough with something between awe and anger. "You should have told me, Amara. You should have told me he was mine." The silence after Li Chen's words was unbearable. The world outside the flower shop seemed to blur into nothing but rain and thunder, as if the storm itself was holding its breath, waiting for her answer. Amara's grip on her son tightened, the boy's small heartbeat thudding fast against her chest. "You don't know what you're saying," she whispered, her voice trembling but firm. "I know exactly what I'm saying," Li Chen said, stepping forward, the storm still dripping from his coat. "He looks like me, not like my brother." "You can lie to yourself, Amara, but don't lie to me." Her throat burned. Memories she had buried for years surged up in her like a flood. His touch, that one night of weakness, the way his lips had felt against her tears when the world was already breaking apart. She shook her head. "It doesn't matter.
He's gone."
You can't undo the past." Li Chen's expression darkened, voice lowering. "The past is already undone. You made sure of that." The words cut deep. She turned away, blinking back the tears that refused to fall. "You think this was easy?" she said, voice breaking. "You think I wanted any of this? I lost him, Chen. I lost everything. And then I found out I was carrying his brother's child." He flinched at the word. "Brother." The little boy tugged at her sleeve, looking up at Li Chen with innocent curiosity. "Mama, who's he?" Amara's lips trembled. She forced a smile. "Just a friend, baby." Li Chen swallowed hard. He wanted to reach out, to touch the boy's hair, to say the truth, but the sight of Amara's shaking shoulders stopped him. There was a kind of quiet devastation in her that pulled him apart from the inside. He exhaled slowly. "Does he know?" Amara shook her head. "He thinks his father died before he was born. And that's the way it will stay. You can't keep him from me." "I can and I will." The ice in her tone shocked even her. She didn't mean to sound cruel, but she was terrified. If Li Chen claimed the child, everything she'd rebuilt would collapse. Her son's peace, her fragile heart, her attempt to atone for the sin she never confessed. "Amara," he said softly now, stepping closer. His voice wasn't the same as before. It carried warmth and sorrow, almost breaking. I'm not here to ruin you. I spent years thinking I was dead inside. Until I saw him. Until I saw you. Her chest tightened. Stop, please. I can't, he said, his voice hoarse. Because every time I see him, I see what we lost. And every time I look at you, I remember what I never stopped wanting. The room fell silent except for the storm's whisper. Then, without warning, the lights flickered and went out. The little boy whimpered, clinging to Amara's leg. Li Chen knelt down beside him, his usually sharp features softening under the faint glow from the street outside. Hey, it's okay, little man. I've got you. The boy blinked at him, then smiled shyly, something deep and instinctive in that connection. He wrapped his small arms around Li Chen's neck, and in that moment, something inside both adults cracked wide open. When Amara saw them like that, father and son, without even knowing it, her heart shattered quietly. She turned away, whispering to herself, this can't happen again. But Li Chen, standing behind her now, his son still holding on to him, said the words she had feared most. It already has. The morning after the storm was cruelly bright. Sunlight spilled through the blinds of Amara's small apartment, falling across the sleeping form of her son, curled like a question mark beside her. Her chest ached. She hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Li Chen's face, the way he looked at her, at their son, the raw disbelief and tenderness tangled in his expression. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. She had sworn, 3 years ago, that Seoul would never see her again, that no one would ever know what she had done. But fate had a wicked sense of humor. A knock sounded on the door. Amara's heart stilled. Only 2 people knew where she lived, her employer at the daycare and her elderly neighbor. But the knock was firm, deliberate. She rose quietly, slipped into a robe, and cracked the door open. Li Chen stood there, in a press suit, holding a small bag in one hand and something unreadable in his eyes. I brought breakfast, he said simply. Her instinct was to shut the door, but her son stirred in the next room. Why are you here? She whispered. I couldn't sleep.
His voice was low.
And neither could you. Before she could reply, small footsteps pattered behind her. Her son peeked around her legs and grinned. It's you. Li Chen crouched slightly. You remembered. Are you Mama's friend? The question drew a faint smile from Li Chen. Something like that. Amara's heart twisted. You should go, Chen. I just want to see him. 1 hour. That's all I'm asking. She hesitated. Every instinct told her to protect, to hide. But the boy was already tugging at Li Chen's sleeve, dragging him toward his toy cars. And Li Chen, the man who never smiled, let out a quiet, helpless laugh. An hour turned into 3. Li Chen sat cross-legged on the floor, helping the boy build towers out of blocks while Amara made tea, pretending not to watch. But her eyes betrayed her. The sight of them together, father and son, was both beautiful and unbearable. When the boy dozed off mid-play, Li Chen rose and walked to her quietly. He's incredible, he said softly. Amara nodded. He's all I have. He studied her for a long moment. Does he know he's sick? She froze. What? I saw the medication bottles on your counter, he said gently. You're hiding something again, Amara. Tears stung her eyes.
He's fine.
He just needs monitoring. Don't lie to me, he said, voice breaking. You kept me from my son. Don't keep this from me, too. She turned away, shaking her head. You wouldn't understand. Your family. My family, he interrupted bitterly. You mean the same people who drove me away for loving you? Who would rather believe their perfect heir than the truth? You think they don't already suspect something? Amara's stomach dropped. What do you mean? He hesitated, then exhaled. My mother called me last night. She said she found a photo online, you at the daycare. She recognized your face. She's coming to Seoul. Amara's breath hitched.
No, she can't.
If she finds out about him. She will, Li Chen said quietly. And when she does, it won't just be your secret anymore. The room fell silent, except for the rhythmic sound of her son's soft breathing. Li Chen took a step closer, lowering his voice. "Let me protect you, Amara. Both of you." Her eyes met his, dark, conflicted, and filled with a love she had tried to bury but couldn't kill. "You can't," she whispered. "Yes," he said. "I already am." That night, as Amara stood by the window watching the city lights flicker, she knew her past had finally caught up to her. And this time, there would be no running. The car that stopped in front of Amara's apartment was far too expensive for the narrow street. Its windows were black, its engine humming like something alive. From the kitchen, she heard the sound and froze. Her son was coloring on the floor. Li Chen had gone to answer his phone. And then came the knock, 3 precise, deliberate taps. Amara's body remembered that rhythm. Years ago, she heard it on the heavy doors of the Li family estate, every time his mother entered a room. She opened the door anyway. Madame Li stood there, immaculate in white silk, her hair a crown of silver pins. Her gaze swept the hallway and then fixed on Amara's face. "So it's true," she said. "You're alive." Amara swallowed. "Madame Li, you should have stayed gone." Behind her, Li Chen appeared. "Mother, don't." Madame Li raised a hand. "You lied to us, Chen. You said you were traveling for business. Instead, you were chasing the woman who destroyed this family." Her voice cut through the room like ice. Amara straightened, every muscle trembling. "I never wanted your son to die. You know that." "You gave both my sons reason to fight each other," Madame Li said. "One drove into the rain that night because of you." Li Chen's voice cracked. "He made his own choice." "Did he?" She turned sharply toward Amara. "Or did you?" The little boy looked up from the floor. "Mama?" Madame Li's eyes followed the sound. The color drained from her face. "Who is that child?" No one spoke. Only the soft ticking of the clock filled the silence. "Answer me." Amara's throat tightened. "He's mine." Madame Li's gaze slid to her son. "And yours?" Li Chen nodded once. It was like watching glass shatter in slow motion. Madame Li swayed, then steadied herself with icy grace. "You've brought shame to your brother's name, to our family. You think you can hide behind this woman and her lies." "She's not lying." Madame Li stared at him, disbelief giving way to fury. "Then you leave me no choice. If the press finds out, if the board hears." "I don't care about the board." "Then you'll lose everything." He looked at Amara, then at the small boy clutching her hand. "Then at least I'll lose it for something real." Madame Li's lips parted, but no words came. She turned and walked out into the rain, the door closing with a soft, final click. Hours later, the city lay quiet again. Amara stood at the window while Li Chen tucked their son into bed. "She'll ruin you," Amara whispered. "She can try," he said. She faced him. "You don't have to do this." He smiled faintly. "Neither do you. But we keep doing it anyway, don't we?" For a long moment neither moved. Then he stepped close enough for their foreheads to touch. "I don't know what tomorrow looks like," he murmured, "but I know what I wanted to feel like." Her eyes closed. "And what's that?" "Real." Outside, dawn was beginning to bleed into the edges of the sky, soft, uncertain, and impossibly new. Epilogue: a year later, the flower shop had moved to a larger street. The boy chased butterflies between rows of lilies, laughter echoing through the open doors. Li Chen stood behind the counter, sleeves rolled up, watching Amara tie ribbons around bouquets. He caught her hand just once, and she didn't pull away. Some secrets, it seemed, were not meant to destroy. Some were meant to bring you home.